Welcome to the Explainer. I am seriously pumped you're here today. We are thrown on our digital scrubs right now and performing a live terminal autopsy on a C# program. I know syntax can sometimes feel a little intimidating, but today we're going to slice right through the famous Hello World application, going line by literal line. It all really starts with this fundamental, almost philosophical question, right? How do you actually make a machine speak? Like, how do you command bare metal and silicon to just output the words, "Hello World"? Okay, let's dive into this and break down the absolute foundational rules of C# syntax so we can find out exactly how the magic happens.
First up, the Hello World blueprint.
Before we can command the machine to do anything at all, we obviously need a place for our commands to live. Think of this as laying out the physical paper for the blueprint of our program. Our file is called program.cs. Now, there's a really important distinction to make here. Unlike some other languages out there, like Java, for instance, the name of your C# file doesn't strictly have to match the class name inside it. But honestly, for the sake of your own sanity and better organization, developers almost always make them match. But the absolute non-negotiable rule? When you save this file, you absolutely must add that .cs extension to the very end. That simple extension is what taps the compiler on the shoulder and says, hey, wake up, this is C# code.
Moving right along to part 2, importing the system. Imagine our terminal is blinking right now, just waiting for that very first command to set up the environment. And boom, we type using system, semicolon. That is line 1 of our program. Now, it looks incredibly simple, right? But it's actually doing a massive amount of heavy lifting in the background. So what is it actually doing? Well, think of using system as calling upon our master librarian. It's telling the program that we want permission to use classes from the system namespace. We're essentially fetching the core, fundamental resources that C# provides right out of the box. This ensures our program has the pre-built tools it literally needs to survive and function.
And then we drop down to line 2, and it's completely blank. Why? Because C# entirely ignores whitespace. The machine seriously doesn't care if there's 1 blank line or 100 blank lines between your commands. But we humans, we definitely do. We use whitespace strategically to space out our code visually just to keep things clean and readable.
Which brings us to section 3, classes and namespaces. Let's dive deeper into the structural architecture of the code. Like, how does C# actually contain and organize all these moving parts? The next vital keyword we hit is namespace. A namespace is purely used to organize your code. It's the ultimate container for classes and, actually, even for other namespaces. If you want to stop your project from turning into an absolute nightmare of spaghetti code as it grows, well, the namespace is your organizational best friend.
Let's move to and see how this builds. Check out how we use these curly braces, the squiggly brackets, to mark the very beginning and the end of a block of code. Everything in C# nests together perfectly. First, on the outside, you've got the namespace. Tucked inside that, you have the class. And nestled right inside the class, you have the main method. It's literally exactly like Russian nesting dolls, but for logic.
Looking a bit closer at that middle layer, we see class program. A class is a container for data and methods. It's the core construct that brings actual functionality to your program. And guys, here is a golden rule you absolutely must remember. Every single line of code that runs in C# has to live inside a class container, no exceptions. You can't just leave executable code floating out in the void. So in our example today, our specific container is named program.
Down to section 4, the main engine. So, we've built the outer frame of our vehicle, and now we are zooming straight in on the absolute heartbeat of the C# architecture. This is the main method. Notice the capital M. This is another thing that almost always appears in a standard C# program. The machine specifically scans your code looking for this exact word, main, because it acts as the starting line of the race. Any code packed inside its curly brackets is exactly what gets executed when you run the program. It's the engine block. Without it, the car just doesn't start.
Now for the payoff. Section 5, printing to the screen.
We are finally at the climax of our code's execution. This is the exact moment the machine performs the action we've been building up to. Here's the payload. Console.writeLine, open parentheses, quotes, hello world, close quotes, semicolon. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the anatomy of this specific command. Console is actually a class, and it's one that comes directly from that system namespace our librarian fetched for us earlier. And WriteLine, that's the method inside that class doing the actual heavy lifting of pushing text straight out to your screen.
To really wrap your head around why our very first line of code, on line 1, was so vital, let's compare. Because we declared using system at the very top, we could simply write console.writeLine. If you had omitted that first line, the compiler would have absolutely no idea where the console class lives. You'd be forced to write out the full longhand version system.console.writeLine. Imagine typing that whole thing out every single time you wanted to print something to the terminal. That one simple import statement saved us a massive amount of typing.
Let's wrap things up with Section 6, the golden rules of C#.
We have successfully dissected our program from top to bottom. But before we close out, let's do a rapid-fire hacker-style wrap-up of the non-negotiable syntax rules we just uncovered. First up, drill this image into your mind right now. Every single C# statement must end with a semicolon. It's literally the period at the end of a sentence. If you forget it, the machine will completely halt your program and throw an error right in your face. It's that serious.
Next up, notice the capital M and C in my class on the left versus the all lowercase my class on the right. And this brilliantly illustrates a huge point. C# is strictly case sensitive. To the machine, these are two entirely different entities. A type 1 capitalization doesn't just mean a minor spelling mistake. It means you are talking about a completely different word as far as the compiler is concerned.
So the crucial point is that mastering these foundational building blocks absolutely guarantees your code will actually run. Let's lock this final checklist in. Number 1, every statement must end with a semicolon. Number 2, the language is strictly case sensitive. Number 3, white space is totally ignored by the machine, but it's super vital for human readability. And number 4, your files must always end in .cs.
We've successfully made the machine speak today. But honestly, far more importantly, you now understand the exact anatomy of how it happened. From importing namespaces as your librarian, to nesting your classes perfectly, to firing up the heartbeat of the main method. Now that you know the structural syntax, the ultimate question is, what will you make your machine say next? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep coding, keep experimenting, and I'll catch you next time.